Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to DCP SideQuest episode number 46. It is the
46.
last episode of April, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, April.
it's April.
Ooh.
It was. April's
I don't even know what it
rounding
is
up
anymore.
and saying bye-bye after this
Bye-bye.
episode. Hey, guys.
We're getting close to
Oh.
like the planned end of the quarantine, right? It's like people are saying May 15th.
Well,
Potentially
originally,
gonna hold.
originally it was May 1st, and then it was like, well, I think we need May 15th, and now it's like, I don't know. There's
And now
vaccine-
everyone's going to the beach and partying. So I'll see you in
Yeah.
2029.
You heard
Actually,
about
this-
that? You heard about that guy who's telling people to turn in that the government should be paying people to turn in people who aren't obeying the quarantine.
I didn't
Oh,
know.
really?
Yeah, they want to pay snitches to like snitch on
Hey.
neighbors.
Love it.
Don't they
But
have-
then don't the snitches have to be outside to be snitching?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Oh.
Snitches
Are
get
the snitches
stitches.
the
That's the
problem?
rule.
Yeah. How was that person in a place, in a position to actually view these other people that were doing the things that they shouldn't be doing? Huh?
They
Huh?
were doing
Me and the
stuff
wife
like
drove
is
to the
very
grocery
true.
store the other day, and my neighbors were out there having a birthday party in the front lawn
with like humans.
with humans and everything.
Whoa.
This is the worst.
Not a VR party?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Not a VR party.
No, I just sincerely hope that whenever it does lift, people still have like a sensible approach. Because if everyone's like, "Hey, we're gonna go and set up like a post-lockdown party," and then suddenly everyone gathers together, like, "Well, now we've all gone and spread it again, and now
Yeah.
we're gonna go into lockdown version 2."
Yeah.
Like,
Now we're waiting for a vaccine in 2021, 22.
Like, is that what we're waiting for? I mean, it seems like that's what we're waiting for.
That's
like,
the big thing. Yeah. Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
still around. Like, say it's May 15th. We're not going to be able to go out and do stuff on May 15th. It's not like it just magically
No.
disappears.
Woo!
And
No.
none of the big congregation type of stuff, like sporting events. I mean, those are out
Those
of the
are done.
question. Yeah, those are done until there's like a legit vaccine or people are okay with having like really large spaces between them and like stands and all that. Yeah.
They can only sell like one out of every 30 seats. So everybody has a
Seriously.
6 foot.
Right? You think about it, there's like a whole economics built on how many people they could pack in a stadium, and then suddenly that gets reduced to like 20%. Like those economics don't work.
Then you don't make
Yeah,
no
I
money,
don't-
so you just cancel it.
Yeah.
Well, the UFC, I don't know if they did this already or if they're doing it. They're like renting a private island and they're flying all the fighters out there. and
Yeah,
they're just gonna
Fight Island.
I
broadcast it on
saw
pay-per-view.
that. Yeah.
what? That
I
sounds
saw that.
hilarious.
That seems
Fight
like a pretty
Island.
good solution, doesn't it?
That sounds like an amazing
yeah.
Netflix show that probably ends
Yeah.
horribly.
That basically sounds like UFC is creating a battle royale of their own. They're like,
Yeah.
Yes.
we're going to
They
broadcast
are.
it,
Yeah.
but only
They're
one person's coming back alive.
I want
Yeah.
them to actually
There's
drop into
only-
the island too from a plane.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely. They need to.
Yes.
Where we dropping, boys?
Fight
dear.
Island. Well,
Imagine that. That would be so cool.
speaking of apocalyptic scenarios, there's a
Oh,
certain
boy.
game with an apocalyptic scenario that's finally getting a date that's coming out.
Yeah, this
Wow.
was weird because it wasn't that long ago. They just said Last of Us 2
was
is being
last
delayed
week.
indefinitely.
Yeah,
It
indefinitely.
was last week.
Was it?
Okay.
Wait, it was last week for
Well,
real?
because last week we talked about it, right? That's the week
Oh,
we
it's right.
talked about it.
Yeah, but I mean, they mentioned it quite. I think it was like the other month they sort of said it was like delayed indefinitely, right? Because basically
Yeah.
shortly
Oh.
after lockdown, because they said they couldn't like deliver the launch spectacle they wanted to, so they wanted to kind of like basically delay it indefinitely.
Yeah. I feel like it was back in March when they were like, ooh, I guess we're going to delay this for whenever. Yeah. So they're saying the global distribution stress is starting to ease up so they can officially have like a legit release date, which I think was the 19th of June. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
19th. Yeah.
Yeah. 19th of June is when it's officially now slated to be released. But
Yeah.
there's some drama.
Which was 2 days after Ghost of Tsushima was supposed to come out. Or no, it was 7 days before Ghost of Tsushima was supposed to come out, and they delayed that too. So they delayed Tsushima, get the launch window of Last of Us 2.
Yes. Robo
Yeah,
Briar.
Tsushima is now July, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's July. I didn't
17th.
even know. Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tsushima got delayed to 17th of July. And this was all on a PlayStation blog, right? Today.
Makes me sad.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's
you
a little
guys might
sad.
want to avoid the internet because there's lots of Last of Us spoilers.
Yeah, and now this is a tough topic to navigate because I have been on the peripheral trying to glean information from it while not actually Googling and searching to potentially get spoiled from the actual
Yep.
information from it. But a disgruntled employee, correct me if I'm wrong, disgruntled employee from Naughty Dog decided to drop a huge can of spoilers of what happens in the story, right? And release some cinematics.
It's been
Yikes.
like we know who did it. It was a disgruntled employee.
I believe so, because people are talking about how like that person's going to get sued for $1 bajillion from Naughty Dog and all that.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Probably.
Again, I'm trying not to Google any of this because I don't want any spoilers.
Yeah. It's difficult because I mean, yeah, like you want to like fully avoid it, but you also want to kind of like, I mean, even when it came to like, I saw someone sort of saying, "Oh, it's going to come out in June." I was like, I don't recall seeing that, and I was about to Google it. It's like, I don't really want to Google anything with The Last of Us in right now. I'm like, so how do I find this
Google
out?
searches.
Because also, like, you Google search it, and then suddenly ads will be like, "Oh, we want to serve you loads of Last of Us information." I'm like, no, you don't. No.
Yeah. So Chad is saying it's rumors, apparently, but I'm nervous to actually go in
What's
detail.
rumors? Because the leak is pretty specific. It shows gameplay of a dev build in German and English.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's not. It's so we can say it's rumors because it's not been confirmed, but the fact that there's actual gameplay out there is
Yeah.
it might be rumors that it's a Naughty Dog employee that did it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could be along those lines. But yeah, so there's definite spoilers for Last of Us 2 out there right now, and like Briar said, 2 days after this kind of drops, suddenly we have a release date now with them officially bringing it out. Do you think that's coincidence?
Was it? I didn't realize it. I didn't realize those leaks went out like 2 days ago. I thought it was today. Or have they been doing the rounds for a couple of days?
Yeah.
I think a few days.
Oh, okay.
Over the weekend.
Yeah,
They dropped over the weekend.
Eric's just been so
okay.
locked away from the spoilers, didn't even know the spoilers were around.
I literally woke up this morning and all I saw was like a tweet of someone saying you should watch
got-
out on social media. I was like, okay.
He's got McAfee.
That's quality quarantining you're doing over
Yeah,
there.
McAfee spoiler guard equipped on his firewall.
Yeah, I'm like, defense.
Norton anti-spoiler. Everything's set
I
up.
played down my Yu-Gi-Oh card in defense mode.
In 1,000 Twitch channel chats, there's keywords being typed in to ban any user who mentions anything closely related.
People have set up bots to
Yeah.
respond to stuff on Twitter. I'm sure there's going to be bots going around on Twitch dropping spoilers
Ugh,
because that's just what
fuckers.
people like to do.
So I gotta shut it down on Twitter too.
You got to shut it down, Briar.
Shut it
Shut
Shut
down.
it down.
Adios.
I feel like it must have been a response to a degree because I mean it's like although on one side there's like a coincidental aspect because we are potentially coming to like the outer part of lockdown, but at the same time it's like they obviously said initially we're delaying it indefinitely because what they wanted to do was they wanted to have some kind of launch spectacle. Even if lockdown ends, they're still not going to be able to do like a huge launch event like they want to do.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just
Like
one
a
of those
red
things
carpet
because
type of
if it
thing?
goes- Yeah, exactly right. The ones where they fly those people out, they kind of do all those things, probably do those big gatherings at like like game shops and stuff like that. So I feel like none of that they'll be able to do now anyway. But they're probably like, well, look, we've worked so hard on this game. So like, I mean, like I saw a post from a dev earlier today talking about like how upsetting it is because like in a concept like this, when it's AAA games, she was like they were sort of saying like some devs only have like maybe 2 or 3 AAA games in their like lifetime career because AAA games are so hugely time consuming.
Right.
So like, and if you think about one of those 3 games that you're working on, like, and you literally live and breathe it, it's like blood, sweat, and tears, and you're crunching and everything, and then suddenly it's like, and it's not one of those ones where it's like, all right, cool, it's an FPS, and there's like maybe a guy dies at the end, and like it's like, all right, whatever, cool. Like this is a story game. Like if like the literal lifeblood of your game has been spoiled, it's like some people will turn around and be like, well, now I know what's going to happen. I'm not even going to buy the game. So
it's the sequel to a game where the story was so pivotal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it was an incredible story in the first game. So like a lot of people just want to know what happens next. That's the only reason they're playing.
Yeah.
I mean, it sold PlayStations.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's also, Naughty Dog is kind of not known for their crunch, right?
Yeah.
Like they're pretty brutal with the crunches. So like I kind of want to know like what's going on at Naughty Dog right now, because a couple of weeks ago they were saying indefinitely delayed, and now they're saying, oh, it's next month.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, I feel like they've had a constant kind of change of direction, because even before, you remember like when they were doing development, they were like, oh yeah, there's going to be no multiplayer. Then there was like all that lashback, and they're like, well, actually, we might be developing a multiplayer as a separate standalone thing. It's like they're constantly just sort of like internally fighting. I don't know. It's it must be like a really big pressure as well, because Last of Us, when it first came out, completely new game, no one ever played it before, and everyone was like, this is amazing. This is one of those like marquee games that goes down in history. To try and follow that with a sequel must be so hard.
Yeah, and it was also because it set a real dramatic tone for what could be possible in the storytelling setting for a video game, because people weren't they weren't used to having a game hit you that hard with the like some real emotions for that could basically be a movie.
Yeah, the character development was outstanding. Like you really got invested in those characters, even side characters like David. The kind of the creepy guy who ran the compound.
Oh yeah, okay.
The end of it.
Yeah, it's true. Like that stuff was wasn't common at all, and not that it's
still
super,
not common.
Yeah, not that it's not common today, but not that it's common today. There's been some great games that have come out that have told really powerful stories, and I feel like they kind of like ushered in that era a bit. So yeah, how do you follow up a defining game like that?
By pushing Ghost of Tsushima,
just shoving it.
The other interesting thing as well.
Get out of the way, bitch.
Yeah, that's because that had that because Ghost of Tsushima was like, they only announced it was delayed today in the blog post as well. So is it literally they have just pushed it out? Because maybe they're thinking as well. Maybe they're like, well, we want to get this out quickly before it's too spoiled, too bad. So imagine that. Imagine being like Sucker Punch and be like, oh, we're ready for like June. And they're like, no, your game is not quite as big as Last of Us, so please wait.
That makes sense, though. I would, if I made Ghosts, I wouldn't want it to come out the same week as.
No, you're very true. Yeah,
because it's like what happened with Titanfall 2, right?
Yep.
Like they should have pushed it. Like Titanfall 2, I would say was better than Call of Duty and Battlefield, but it doesn't have the following of Battlefield and Call of Duty.
Yep.
So that game kind of didn't get its chance in the spotlight as much as it deserved because they didn't push it.
Yeah.
They should have just put a different date on it.
I definitely feel like there's a lot of shared audience between these two games as well, with Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, because they're heavy story driven games in the PlayStation market. Like that's definitely going to have a lot of cross.
I'm definitely planning on playing both of them. Like I'm looking forward to both.
Yep.
Yeah.
Question as well. Interesting thing is like, I wonder whether partly the June release date is like a reaction, obviously, to the stuff, but also, so there's some other rumors going around at the moment.
More rumors.
That there's rumors that there's supposed to be like, it's kind of what they've already said. Like in June, Microsoft are going to be doing their equivalent of like their E3 event, right? So talk about, because everyone's going to fill that E3 void. So I wonder because obviously Sony have been very weird with the PS5 like updates. They haven't really done much, and I wonder whether they similarly might not drop an update in the conventional E3 window. So maybe they're also thinking, oh, you know what we'll do? We'll drop Last of Us in June when everyone's kind of doing their E3 talk, when we haven't got something else to show, and that'll keep people busy for a while, get them off our back, and then maybe it's like a tactical decision as well.
Do you think they're not going to show some information on what they want to launch PS5 with, though? I'm expecting some launch titles. I feel like
I would want to say yes, but the fact that even before E3 was closed down, Sony had already pulled out of E3 was evident that they weren't going to be showing anything in the E3 window specifically. So I feel like they're already working to their own timeline. So given the current situation, I feel like it makes sense that they should do something. But I mean, all we've seen so far is they've literally shown a controller. I almost feel like they want to operate around their own timeline. So I wouldn't be surprised if like everyone's dropping some announcements in that kind of E3 window and then Sony just do something later.
I think they're just going to ramp up. Like, assuming a release in November of the new console, like I would expect that they're just going to, like, come September, it's going to just be a bonanza of information and stuff like that. But they're just going to like kind of slow roll it so that they don't have to put all their stuff out there at E3, because it's not, that's not even a thing. So like let's play this out so it does the absolute best marketing it can do for our cause.
Yeah. Also, maybe in today's day and age, it doesn't make sense to have like a 6-month window between these like announcements. Maybe it's better to just have 3-month windows now. If you're going to launch a new console, like because
maybe
the media blitz is so quick now. People move on really fast.
We're seeing a lot with like games, like a lot of developers, unless you're like kind of one of those like old school Japanese developers, a lot of developers as well are very much like, we only want to announce when the game is, within like a year of release. Like a lot of people are doing that now. I mean, Nintendo, that's partly like what Nintendo do a lot of as well with like Switch. Like generally speaking announce something, apart from something like Metroid Prime. Like generally they announce it, and within the next year you're playing it. So because I think gone are the days where people are like, I'm going to sit and wait for 3 years worth of trailers before I can play this game. Like, nah, man, not anymore.
Yeah.
It blows back in your face too. Like you look at, I mean, obviously Final Fantasy 7 Remake had a fantastic launch. Everybody's like super pleased with it. But man, like the internet was just sniping at Square for years about, you started showing this off in 2013 and where is it? Like that's got to get old after a while when every time you talk on the internet, people are just in your face about something you talked about, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember when Final Fantasy was, what was it? It was originally called Versus 13, the one that had Noctis in, or Noctis or whatever it's called. Like that, it was first like Versus 13, right? And then that came out as, was it 15 in the end? Or whatever it is it?
I think that's how it worked.
Yeah, because Noctis is in 15, right? I haven't.
Noctis is
15. Noctis is 15. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, but originally it was called Versus 13, and it had that kind of crazy cinematic trailer where he's like dashing down the building and throwing blades around. And everyone was like, I literally like watched that when I was at school. Like I'm just like, what the hell?
Been a minute.
Like literally in London, in the UK, there's a skyscraper called the Shard, right? And they started building that after they announced Versus 13, and it was finished. They finished building a skyscraper before this came out. I'm just like, oh my gosh, Japan, you be crazy.
I was watching a Digital Foundry video, Digital Foundry retro on the original Final Fantasy 7 today. It's like an hour-long video. I only got like 15 minutes into it. But they talk about how originally Final Fantasy 7 was being developed on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And was supposed to star a guy named Joe in New York in the 90s. It's like, holy shit, that would have been a different world where Final Fantasy 7 was in New York starring Joe.
Amazing.
I feel like Joe's more iconic than Cloud, to be honest. But
man. Whew. Joe, you can relate to.
Joe
knows your troubles.
Before we jump into spoilers discussion for Final Fantasy 7, Gears Tactics is coming out tonight, and it's been getting some decent reviews actually. Like from what I can tell, is if you don't like the stringent, like feeling like you're gonna die all the time experience of XCOM. Apparently, Gears Tactics is like XCOM, but more aggressive and a little more forgiving. Obviously, in the Gears world as well.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna play it?
Yeah.
No.
I played the first little bit for like some gameplay, but I don't think I have the time to kind of play too much more. But I mean, it definitely looks like if you like those strategy fixes, it looks like it's kind of got that angle. But then obviously on the flip side, you've also got Chimera Squad as well. XCOM Chimera Squad, which just came out. Which, by the way, if you guys are XCOM fans or you want to play it, for this week up until May 1st, it is at a discount price of like £8.49 or whatever that is in your regional thing. So it's super cheap for like the first week it basically came out. So if you want to play it, and the cool thing about this one is that so XCOM can be quite daunting to get into. It's a very big game. There's a lot of kind of stuff. There's like permadeath for your characters and whatnot. Chimera Squad is like a super streamlined standalone game that anyone can jump into. You don't have to have previously played the games. And a lot of the kind of like the hardcore stuff is stripped back a little bit. I mean, it's still obviously got the core experience, but you don't create characters. There's just 11 pre-made characters. You also get to like play as. No, they've all got like personalities now, and you also get to play as some of the. No. But hear me out. So this is also where
I'm not hearing you out.
There's also for the first time in like XCOM history, you get to play. Some of the aliens are on your side as well, so you get to play some of the aliens as well.
Don't care if I can't name them.
Yeah. What about Joe from New York, the alien man?
Yeah, right.
There's a guy that looks like Jar Jar Binks. I know it's just special for you, right? It'd be great. But
half the fun of the XCOM games is naming all the characters after like friends and family, and then getting really upset if they die.
Well, here's the thing. The reason you don't want to do that is because permadeath is not in Chimera Squad C. So if your characters die, you fail the mission and you go back and do it again, or you can revive them in the mission kind of thing. But there's some cool new mechanics in that. One of the really cool systems they introduced is a thing called breach mode. So instead of like conventional thing where you just start and everyone's on a grid, like you begin every mission by like police style breaching through doors, and you decide who you want to place on different doors. So it might be like, oh, this guy's going to breach through the roof, this guy's going to breach through the door. Different areas will give you bonuses. It'll be like, all right, you breach through the door, you get like a plus 25 defense, or you get plus 5 crit. And then as soon as you go in, it goes into kind of bullet time. You get 3 shots on the enemies first, and then conventional grid mode begins. It plays quite well, but I mean, yeah, definitely if you like XCOM but want to sort of have like a more streamlined thing you can jump into quickly, it's definitely not as like bogged down or kind of daunting. So it's kind of it's an entry point sort of thing.
Okay, so that's good to know.
Cool. XCOM games are fun.
They are. If Gears of War Tactics goes on Xbox, like the Xbox
Game
Pass?
Pass?
Is it called? Game Pass. I'll probably check it out eventually.
Is it not on the Game Pass?
It's just there free.
I would expect
imagine
it
is.
I thought it was on the Game Pass, but I could be wrong.
I can't imagine it not being a Gears of War game.
Right? Yeah.
But like that could be fun to just like download one night and play for a while on the Xbox because it's free. But it doesn't, like, the franchise isn't the most appealing franchise to me personally. And the game looks like a mobile game. Like in screenshots.
I mean, to me, it looks like an XCOM game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like an XCOM game to me. And I feel you on the Gears universe. Like, I'm not invested in the Gears universe, so I could care less about what's happening or if I see the particular type of enemy type. But I know some people are huge into it. Like Halo. I'd be like, oh man, I want to play that if it was Halo.
Yeah, true.
I might play Gears Tactics so if it's on the Game Pass.
I never played the Halo.
It is on Game Pass, yeah.
RTS games either. I think I played the first one, but I never played the other one.
It was cool. The Halo RTS one, like I liked it. The only one thing I didn't like about it is that, like, unlike normal RTSs where when you build up your base, you can build freely anywhere. Halo had the thing where like you build specifically in a grid on this base, and then you need to like expand elsewhere. So it was a lot more limited, but it was fun. It was fun. I mean, Halo kind of fits RTSs because obviously you have all like the warthogs and the units that just roll out. So yeah. It was cool.
Cool.
Should we do it? Should we start the Final Fantasy VII remake?
Are we doing it?
Spoiler
Okay.
Let's
talk?
give a hefty spoiler warning.
I have beep, beep, beep. Anyone
Yeah,
got a red
spoiler warning.
flashing light they can show up?
All right, no holds barred, right? This is no holds barred.
No holds barred.
Spoiler talk. If you haven't finished Final Fantasy VII, don't listen.
Do not.
Skip to next week.
Yeah.
Come back to this one. We're gonna go into it hard.
All right.
Going deep.
Briar,
into the
did you
lore
finish it?
world.
I did finish it. I marathoned it for like 15 hours yesterday.
Let's go.
Went to bed at like
Nice.
5 a.m. Woke up and then finished
That's what I like to see.
the very
Before we take
last part
spoilers.
when you go into the like, I don't know, the alternate dimension or whatever the fuck enemy fuck thing they're talking about.
Timelines.
Yeah, but that was like the last hour of it I finished this morning.
Okay.
Ooh,
Nice.
so you're fresh.
He just finished it.
Fresh.
Yeah.
But before we get onto the specifics, did you take the stairs or the elevator?
I took
the
the
stairs.
elevator.
Yes. No. You took the elevator? No. You have to take the stairs.
I know what happens with the stairs.
The stairs was
No, but
great.
there's a difference between knowing it and experiencing it.
Getting out of breath in a video game.
Mode. The
Okay, yeah,
elevator
we-
was honestly pretty hilarious because people come in and they're like,
Okay.
"I'm not supposed to be here. I'm gonna go this way."
Because with me, like I was shouting to my friends at the time because that was also when I was trying to blitz through to get to the end so I could do like some videos and stuff. So I opted to take the elevator to begin with, and then I was about to start, and they were like, "No, you should have taken the stairs." I was like, "Okay, cool." So I went there thinking like because I was like, "Oh, maybe it leads to a weapon," and I'm literally walking up this 57 flights, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Okay, surely." And every single time I'm like, "Let me just check this door just in case." I'm like, okay, I
Nope.
literally just walked 57.
You're there for the
Okay.
banter.
Yeah.
I played a mini game with
Try and
myself.
raise Barrett up.
Yeah, that's exactly what I kept on trying to block Barrett. And he got ahead of me for a little bit, but I was pretty good at blocking him for a while going up the stairs.
He cheated, right? I walked for ages, right? And I was super far ahead of him. And then suddenly I paused for a bit because I was like, I want to wait for Barrett to catch up because like I want to see what he says.
Well, they keep telling you to wait for him to catch up.
Yeah, but then he teleported in front of me. And I was like,
He
Yo,
teleported?
son of a bitch.
Yeah, I was like, suddenly I was like, wait, he's ahead of me, and now I'm running to catch up. And I'm like, wait, no.
Barrett's hacking? Oh no.
He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we gotta talk about the Don Cornelio stuff because we couldn't really talk about that last week. But oh my god, that might have been one of my favorite. Like, I would call it like an act.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with the dancing, even like the first time you go to Wall Market, you can tell like this is a different thing than what I've been experiencing in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
And like you start off with the Wall Market, it just like it's this beautiful like neon lit like kind of like I don't know what you'd call it, a market. And then you go to do the combat, then you go do the dancing, and then you actually meet Don Cornelio himself, which is hilarious as well because you're dressed in drag.
Oh dear.
And his
like,
belly has jiggle physics.
Yeah.
Yeah. The decisions that you've made up to that point make a difference on how everybody is dressed. And like actually in the achievements of the game, or not in the achievements, but after you finish the game, you can go in and like see where like what you've done in the game and like what you've got left to do.
Yeah.
It shows you that there's 3 costumes for every character in that scene. And it shows you like how many you've done so far.
Yep.
That's great.
Which is kind of funny.
It's one of those moments where you're at the Honeybee Inn and you're doing the actual dance.
Oh my
and
god.
And it starts and then you think it's finished. And you're like, okay, that was really cool. And then more happens. And I'm like, oh my God, there's more. This is amazing. This is the best thing ever.
It's the thing I want to go into broadcasters' past streams and watch them do the most ever.
Yeah. Absolutely. I want everyone to highlight it. It's great.
I found it difficult because I wanted to be watching the screen.
Same.
You know, I didn't want to be like watching like the timing of the buttons. I wanted to be watching the dancing because it was just so fun.
Yeah, that's what was happening to me too. I was like, okay, I don't want to screw this up, but like, there's so much visual stuff going on. It's like I can't.
It's like playing Rock Band, but not like paying attention to the notes coming down the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
Screen.
It was amazing.
What happens if you just miss everything? Anybody know?
I know you don't get the earrings.
Oh.
So there's the earrings that what is his name? Andre?
Yeah, Andrea.
Andrea, yeah.
Andre, he will not give you the earrings if you mess it up.
Okay. Yeah, have you gone to the part where you see him again? It's like it's a side quest later on, and you got to do pull-ups with him.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's pretty good too. Like I really liked his character because he's just so positive. Like the reason he wants to do exercise is because it's going to improve your life and like help you focus your mind. And I just loved his character so much. I loved a lot of the characters in this.
Yeah. Same. They did a great job. I thought the writing was really good for all of them. It made me feel really attached to them quite easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When we talked last week, I think I had finished like the ghost part, like where you're in the bus depot.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And you're going through that. And I was warming up to go and save the platform, right? It's like the platform. Shinra's going to destroy the platform and dump it on Sector 7. And I got to be honest with you, I thought that was the end of the game. And it is not.
No.
That's almost like the beginning of the end of the game. It's that's where things are getting crazy. It's such an emotional roller coaster going from all of that stuff happening and deaths happening with all of your close friends. And then it's like, okay, got to pull it together because there's a fight happening. And it's like such this emotional roller coaster of I'm really sad and this is really somber. And then you have to go and kick this dude's ass. So I found that afterwards I was pretty tired.
I was emotionally destroyed after that when the plate dropped and then like Barrett was freaking out, punching the wall. I was like, I don't think I can take this anymore. I have to end the stream here.
And then so Eris takes Barrett's child, I can't remember her name.
Marlene.
And,
Marlene,
Marlene, and saves Marlene as well as a bunch of other residents in Sector 7 and brings her to her house. So like the aftermath of the plate dropping is all this devastation. Multiple of your friends died. It's really a downer. Like it's a really kind of like, man, this is like the next few hours. Are you doing like side quests and stuff? Like it's the biggest chunk of side quests that come along in the game. It's like there's 9 available side quests,
something like that. Yeah,
There's a lot,
most other places have had like 3 to 6 at most. So 9 is like a bunch, and they're the most difficult side quests I found, because you actually have to do quite a bit of looking around to try and find like where are these chocobos, where are these Don Cornelio. So it's actually, while I was in the moment, I was kind of like, God damn it, I just want to get back to the action. Like, why am I doing like 9 of these tedious side quests? But actually, what it gave me was time to cool down from what I had just seen and like relax a little bit from like the depression of like what I had just seen. And I actually thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Did you do all the side quests?
Yeah, I did them all. Yeah.
Did the behemoth fight? That was tough. Like the first time I fought that thing, and I was not expecting it, and like it just, because most of the fights I did first time anyway, but like the behemoth one, like I died the first time because but it wasn't even like a kind of a close thing. He just completely wiped the floor with me because I didn't understand his mechanics. But then the second time, like it was a struggle, but I got super close. But then he did the flipping, I mean, it's not Monster Hunter because obviously it came in Final Fantasy first, but he did the Monster Hunter thing where he starts raining down meteors, and I'm just like, I swear if I die right here, I'm quitting right now. And I slapped him quickly and he died, and I was like, that was rough.
That was a really cool fight.
There was a fight against this little guy. I think it was when
the green guy with the hood.
Yeah, the little green guy with the hood. And that guy came at me with 3 attacks in a row that insta-wiped my party out of the gate. I did not even have time to like start hitting him.
Have you played the original Final Fantasies?
I played a little bit of Final Fantasy VII and did not like it.
Because the way that he works in other Final Fantasy games, because he's in a lot of them, is basically you're trying to kick his ass before he does this one move on you that just insta kills you. So he's slowly moving towards you in the older games. So you're trying to kill him.
That's what he's doing in this one too.
They nailed it perfectly for this fight because he's slowly walking towards you, and then he just stabs you, and then you're dead.
I had just equipped. Like my whole team was all close range weapons. I didn't have anybody like sitting in the back. Okay. So we all just ran at this fucker.
Oh, God.
Cloud died. I was like, wait a minute, what just happened to Cloud? And then I can't remember what exactly my party makeup was at the time, but it was like 2 guys were dead like right away. And like I'm trying to like back up with my other guy, like and trying to use Phoenix downs, and then he got knocked out too. I was like, Jesus. And then I reloaded and like beat him like right away. But it was funny.
Yeah,
he's
the biggest badass I've seen so far.
Yeah,
it's so funny because he's just this little green dude with a hood and a knife and a little lantern, and then he's like, "What could he possibly do to me?" A lot.
Yeah,
he's super
spookiest boy.
Yeah, because I never played many Final Fantasy games before, so I didn't even know I didn't know about Tom Burry. So like I just ran to him. I was like, "Oh, this guy looks easy. I'm just gonna go and like wipe the floor with it." I was like, okay.
I looked at him and I was like, I wonder how they've done it in this game, and I was like, oh, okay, it's the same.
Like that.
It's the same.
Yeah, that's great. I enjoyed the pacing as well, Brer. Like with all the
Me too.
I felt compelled to do all the side quests because
I did too.
The story, they didn't feel like they were a bunch of fetch quests. I mean, some of them were fetch quests, like fetching the kids and all that, but like you felt like you were a part of the experience of what was happening at the time there. Like if you were in the Sector 7 slums, you felt like what life was like in the Sector 7 slums. If you were doing the final side quest, you were witnessing the aftermath of Shinra not caring about if they dropped a plate, and like everybody being blown away that this was possible. And then the politics, you meet like the angel of the slums, and she's talking about the back and forth that's happening with the media and what Shinra says, what they are or aren't doing and all that. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Shinra, I thought they did a good job with, because like there's Barrett's like interpretation of what's going on. And it's like this very like cut and dry, like we have to get rid of these guys because they're destroying the planet. But like multiple times people ask Barrett, like, if not this, then what? Like if we shut down Shinra, like, what do you think's going to happen here? And he's never got an answer to it. And then like there's a part where you're like creeping around in the Shinra building, like in the ducts, and you're overhearing some conversations. You hear people who work at Shinra who have genuine concern, like, we've got to. All right, there's obviously going to be a lot of overtime rebuilding the plate. We've got to like fix all this. Like, you know, get ready, guys, because like we really got to go at it here. This is a big deal. So like it's not like
they're also saying things
it's
like,
not like it's the Empire, right?
Yeah, they're also saying things like I got family in Sector 7, like I know people there, like friends, and like it's definitely not black and white. There's a whole lot of gray area.
They do a great job of showing like there's normal people that work here, and actually most of the people have no idea of all the bad stuff that Shinra is doing. They actually think that they are a company that's doing good stuff, and they're putting this effort together to fix the slums because this terrible thing happened. So I think they did an extremely good job showing that both sides of Shinra.
Yeah.
Speaking of Shinra, their building, that was impressive. When you walk in there, like that was a really cool building.
It was.
With those 59 floors.
Awesome.
Impressive.
Yeah, it's crazy. There was one part which absolutely astounded me when you go into the simulation to watch.
Oh my god! Right?
I was just like,
so good.
This is insane. Where you're flying around and looking at the ancients and all of their beginnings, and that was amazing.
That cutscene.
That might have been one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in the game.
Seriously, that cutscene was
incredible.
Shockingly awesome because not only visually was it a spectacle, like they did high level, like almost Pixar grade visuals on there, but also the fact that it was like inserted in this moment of propaganda of like Shinra describing how they're making the world better and where it came from and all that, like what was happening. Then obviously you saw the Sephiroth cutscene right there as well.
Yeah.
That was a mind-blowing cutscene.
I love it when that happens as well, because you know, like the game itself like looks like fantastic anyway, right? It's like really, really nice looking game. But then when they drop the like, oh no, this is the movie grade CGI, it's like, oh, hold on a minute, let me just get
wait a second. Cloud's hair is moving.
Yeah, like you can see freckles and like skin texture I was like, oh, holy crap, what is happening? Because normally
it's amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say normally if they had put like think about that scene outside of a VR, it just wouldn't work because they were floating and witnessing what happened with the world and all that. And so it fits so perfectly from story to visuals. It was blown away by it.
It's amazing. Again, going back to that Digital Foundry video that I was watching earlier, it's like the cutscenes in the game we're playing, the regular gameplay looks better than those old cutscenes do.
Yeah.
So it's like it's fun to like think about like what are we going to be looking at in 20 years from now?
Like, right. I'm scared a little bit.
That CGI will be our gameplay, but like, wow.
Yeah, right?
That would be nuts.
No. 20 years in the future, people look back at that CGI and be like, that was their CGI?
Yeah.
Yikes,
well, that looks rubbish. I draw that by hand.
Yeah.
The other thing is Shinra as well. Before we I guess kind of inevitably move towards the
penultimate,
the finale stuff.
Time.
The Rufus battle on the roof was so cool. When
he is cool.
Down,
I know he's a bad guy.
Yeah, when he drops his white coat and he's got his shotguns. And when I was fighting at first, I was like, this guy's tough. Every time I try to hit him, he's just like, no, shotgun to your face, sit down. I was like, all right, this guy's cool, man. But then when you start to see the gap and you're like, oh, okay, I need to attack when he's reloading. Then it's like, but no, that was a really cool fight. Like
he has some awesome moves. Like on the next part where he flips his coins and he's just the flipping of the coin mechanic it looks so cool. The whole time I'm fighting him, I'm like, you're an asshole, but that was pretty cool.
Right.
You know, in typical like Japanese anime fashion, when someone comes out wearing a white coat, a long white coat, you're like, this guy's gonna be trouble. Like he's just gonna be trouble. And it's like, yep.
Before we got to there, though, there was the ward system where you actually split your party into two different groups while you were trying to escape Shinra. So you'd already saved Eris, whatever.
You can say either because in Japanese it's Erisu, so you know, Earth doesn't even exist.
And you've got this like mad scientist now fucking with you as you're trying to escape, and you've got your party split up into two groups. You can switch between them to fight. This is the first time that I had real trouble in the game. Actually, was when my party was Tifa and Eris,
dogs,
whatever. It's like the dogs. Yeah, like there's a group of like 6 or 7 dogs that come at you. And both of those characters were basically set up as healers for me.
Oh no!
So I was having real issues in that part. I had to like completely revamp those characters for that fight.
That's actually the only time that I had complaints with the system was not having these set loadouts for the characters, because I kept on swapping my Magnify back and forth every time I switch parties.
Yeah.
Which is annoying to have to do that, you know? So
was there only one Magnify in the game? Because I never found another one.
Yeah, there's only one.
Only one.
That's too bad, because it was like incredibly useful.
Yeah. So like the loadout system was kind of annoying.
This was a part of the game that was like, this is probably like an hour, right? No. It's a lot. You're fighting like all the experiments. There was one really cool enemy, which was the whack-a-mole boss guys, where they come out of the ground and their actual weapon is a whack-a-mole hammer.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's great. I like this. They were annoying, but I love that detail.
Yeah.
And then you also get introduced to the dog or the cat guy. What's his name? Red 13.
Red 13.
Oh, yeah.
So cool.
I really like him.
Yeah, he's awesome. They really nailed his voice actor in both languages for this as well. His voice actor was great.
He's an actual spirit animal.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So then you finally think you're gonna escape, and then you run into what's his name, Rufus, on the roof.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, actually, you run into the president.
Right.
Oh yeah.
On the roof, and Sephiroth on the roof. Was the Sephiroth battle before
Rufus? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you fight Sephiroth. Well, you're not really. It's not Sephiroth. It's Cloud's mother. Like this is where the shit started to go. Like
Genova.
So this was the point at which I was like, okay, they're going like full anime here with the story, because I don't understand what's happening. They haven't explained anything.
This is like crazy. If you don't know the history of the original game and Crisis Core, this is kind of like you kind of can figure it out a little bit, but you don't know the details of the history of them.
So the woman in the tank was Cloud's mother, right? It's like or like the she was like an alien that was a comet that had hit the Earth and killed the ancients.
Alien. But when they were doing experiments, they were injecting soldiers with Genova cells to try and create like the perfect soldier. So anyone who was injected with the Genova cell is kind of like, Genova's baby.
Right. Which is also why Cloud has powers, right?
Yes.
Like he's a class, or like soldier class specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it starts getting weird there. Then it kind of comes back a little bit, and you kind of do some regular stuff. Like Rufus, I really liked Rufus. I liked that fight, but I wish they had kind of done some stuff to introduce his character a little bit earlier in the game, so they had more context to who he was. Because like the president was the bad guy, and then the president's dead. Rufus is the bad guy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It was kind of sudden, where it's like, okay, Rufus, who's just the heir to this fortune, just shows up and is got wicked shotgun skills.
A badass.
Yeah. And he's got a fetish for belts and buckles on his coat dress thing.
Don't we all?
That's Final Fantasy. Like, if you want to be in Final Fantasy, you need buckles, you need belts, you need more buckles.
Be like, what all those straps for? What you strapping, man? Huh?
Well, you were saying last week how weird it is that you're like walking through town with like obviously like Final Fantasy dressed people with like huge swords. It's even weirder when you're in the Shinra building and everybody's dressed in suits. Like, nobody knows.
And you're like, hello, we're fine and normal, not infiltrating at all.
The mayor?
Yeah,
what the mayor. Fuck are you talking about?
That was amazing. I love that part. We're all walking around saying
hilarious.
the mayor, and they're like, huh?
The mayor. They're like,
that reminded me of you remember Heavy Rain when it was like Jason? Was it Heavy Rain at the start of it?
I never played Heavy Rain.
Oh,
okay. It was Heavy Rain. It was Heavy Rain. Yeah, it was. I remember that.
Yeah.
So your helicopter gets blown up. You can't escape. Like the escape route's blocked. So everybody's got to go like down instead of, and like you kind of have this fight scene with Red and Barrett and who's the other one? Who's the third one in that? Tifa.
Yeah.
No, Tifa was up with Cloud.
Aerith?
It must have been. Anyhow, they, like you have this like cutscene, and then you do this like long escape, and then the fucking craziness really gets going. Right? It's like, can somebody explain to me what the hell is going on here? Because I didn't get it, man. Like, Did we literally kill Fate?
Like, wait, you jumping past the highway?
Yeah, we go down the highway. Yeah,
because that was some crazy anime stuff going on as well. Like you had this highway fight.
Yeah.
Also, just Cloud on a bike when in that cutscene. Also, that was like before when he was whipping around.
Oh, that was cool.
That was badass, right? You want Cloud as a summon on his bike in another game to be able to do stuff like that.
You know what I thought they were going to do on the highway as well? You know, like before when when we were like running away, I was like, they're going to bring back the bike guy that we fought at the very beginning of the game. I'm going to have a rematch with him, aren't I? And then they were like, no, we're going to bring out like a tank. Like a big old tank. Okay.
I honestly thought that sequence was a bit long. It was.
Well, I mean, it's
a little bit.
Endless highway stuff just tends to be that way sometimes because you're like, you have to learn how to kill this thing as quick as possible and gets a little winded. Yeah. So I feel you on that. But also the Arbiters, right? They were like
Arbiters of Fate.
Yeah, Arbiters of Fate were like
they were anchovying around the building.
Anchovying around Shinra building that whole time while you're trying to get out of there, right?
Okay. Why were they doing that?
So, in order to explain the Arbiters of Fate, essentially what the Arbiters of Fate were doing is throughout the entire game, they're trying to keep you on the track of the original Final Fantasy VII game. So it's actually really interesting if you go back and play it and notice when they pop up, because the Whisper Boys are there to try and keep you on track of the original Final Fantasy VII. So the whole way we're kind of fighting fate or fighting what our future is supposed to be.
So that's interesting because there's certain points at the game where it's almost like they acknowledge that this is the second time we've done this.
Yeah.
Right? So that's actually pretty interesting. That actually clarifies it quite a bit.
It is very interesting. Yeah.
Right. So then you get to the end of the highway and Aerith pulls out ancient magic, opens up a doorway to be able to confront fate itself, right?
Mm-hmm. We're basically going into an ascendant realm.
Yeah.
He's not, that's not Sephiroth, right?
No.
That is fate.
No.
Yeah, that's
that
fate.
is the personification of fate.
Yeah, and again, remember, fate,
destiny.
Fate is trying to hold together the timeline that was the original Final Fantasy VII.
Right.
And so doing this is specifically breaking that timeline and opening up other possibilities.
Yeah, because you'll see throughout that sequence, there'll be like flash forwards. So you'll see like Red is running in a desert. That's from the original storyline. You also see a hint of Aerith's situation from one of the flash forwards. So all of it is showing that like we are breaking what is supposed to happen.
So for instance, like what you just said is Aerith in the first game gets a sword through the gut, right? Gets killed. That's like the big reveal, or that's like the big thing.
Wait, what?
From Final Fantasy VII. So that theoretically, because we killed Fate, that theoretically isn't going to happen, or it's not guaranteed to happen now.
It's not guaranteed.
Which I think makes the game more interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, like, you know, the original timeline is bad for Sephiroth, right? Because we end up defeating Sephiroth and he can't do what he wants to do. But so that's good for us. But it was bad for Aerith because she's dead, and it's good and bad for different characters. So I think it's really interesting that now there's like a completely new thing that's gonna happen.
Yeah, I wish that they had explained this better in the game, because I'm understanding this now based on your explanation, but I was completely baffled by what was going on when I was actually playing the game. Like,
so the end, and especially when we get to the end, if you have not played original Final Fantasy VII content in Crisis Core and know that story, you're kind of like, who? What?
Yeah.
Why do
I don't even know what Crisis Core is. What's Crisis Core?
It's a separate story that goes into the background of Zack.
Is it a movie or another game?
It's a game. It's on the PSP.
Oh.
Because that's the last question I had. Because I didn't play the original one. Like, as soon as I finished, I just hit up my friend who, like, he's like a massive Final Fantasy fan. And, like, we just kind of spoke through the thing, and then he explained, because I was in the same thing. I never understood. I didn't quite get what the Whispers were doing until he explained it. He's like, you know, they're trying to keep it on track. But then that means that. So then, because one of the theories obviously is that therefore Sephiroth is aware of his future and is therefore trying to get us to defeat the Whispers to so that we can deviate from the true path. So therefore, he might not be defeated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? Yeah. So the other thing is that, because from what I know from Crisis Core, I didn't play it, but someone told me, is that so Cloud obviously gets his Buster Sword from Zack because Zack dies, right? So that
we got
fight
to talk
Zack,
about the history of Zack.
Yeah, because that fight.
Ending.
Okay, yeah, well, maybe I'll leave that to you because my understanding is that from that fight, he was supposed to have died from that fight, but now he's won. Now he's not. So does that mean that we're going to get to play as Zack in the next game? Who knows?
Yeah, it's really interesting because so when they were creating the character of Zack, he wasn't even supposed to be a thing until like 5 minutes before the game came out. Not exactly, but you get what I mean. Mm-hmm. So then they were thinking of Cloud. They were like, we want Cloud to have a background story that's not his own. We want him to have like a stolen backstory. And they were like, well, why don't we just like make a character and he can take his backstory? That seems more interesting. And that's how Zack was born. So Cloud is essentially becoming Zack, because what happened was they were fighting against a bunch of soldiers and Zack did really well. He was doing great, but he did ultimately end up dying. And then Cloud sees that he was dying and Zack gave him his sword, which is the Buster Sword, and said, continue on my legacy, essentially. And Cloud was like, continue your legacy, I will become you. He took it very literally. He took it very literally. So Cloud was never a soldier. That was Zack. Zack was the soldier first class.
Oh, really?
At that point, Cloud was just a regular kind of...
No, I thought Cloud had actually gotten experimented on, though, but didn't fully complete the soldier program.
He got experimented on, and he was injected with the Genova cells, but he didn't do well with it at all. He was kind of in a really...
Yeah, he got like kicked out of the program, right?
He was like a woozy... He was a woozy.
Which I think that explains why he had like a psychosis of suddenly taking on someone else's past. And, and not realizing that it wasn't his own past. Like some of that...
He doesn't know that what his actual past is. And in the original stories, he starts finding out about that, and that confuses him even more and kind of leads to his mental breakdown.
So in this timeline or in this game, Zack is still alive. How's that change things, you think?
Well, if Zack is still alive, does Cloud get the Buster Sword? Does Cloud take on the identity of Zack at all?
Yeah, I mean, this timeline is still happening, right?
Yeah.
So
because we're basically thinking it's two different timelines, right? We are playing Cloud in the timeline that Zack is dead, and we have his identity, and we have the Buster Sword. And then the other timeline is Zack and Cloud are alive together. So
wait, so in Final Fantasy VII Remake, we're in the timeline that Zack is dead, but we're seeing a timeline that he's still alive?
Well, defeating Fate fractured like the time space.
Fudged up everything.
But we saw Zack before we defeated Fate.
Did we? No, I thought that was a flashback. Well, we saw
it was a flashback.
Well, we saw you defeat Fate, and then Aerith senses the presence of Zack and Cloud in a different timeline, walking back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also,
I want to point out too.
Instead of what we actually got, which was what's going on, it would have been nice to get some of this stuff explained. Somehow. I don't know.
Also, clarification too, just to make sure you know that like Sephiroth is definitely not dead, because we had that big fight, and then we get put into like the creation. Like he brings you back into a space of creation from the beginning of time, and then says what you do with the next 7 seconds is, or he says whatever the line about 7 seconds. But then,
I didn't really get that. What 7 seconds is he talking about? Because I didn't do anything.
That's a reference to the original, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know the specifics of it, but like in the original, there was a reference to 7 seconds that very important 7 seconds that happened, or however much time it takes for something to happen in the original. But Sephiroth was pushing Cloud to get to the point to, I guess, confront Fate, to then open up these other timelines, just like you said, because he knows his Fate was going to die with the meteor and all that at the end of 7. I think, right?
So Sephiroth is in the Final Fantasy remake that we are playing. Sephiroth is technically still frozen in the frozen chamber thing, and he's like using his Genova cell projection stuff to appear. in our
That
minds?
is unclear to me. Wasn't aware.
Yeah. Okay.
I am really tempted to go back and play the original Final Fantasy VII.
You know what you could do? There's a bunch of really awesome videos that go through the entire story of Final Fantasy VII, and then also there's ones that jump
sounds
into
like a better idea.
there's ones that jump into the backgrounds of each character, so you can like watch Zack, and that will tell you all about the Crisis Core story. You can watch about
any
Cloud
like a good content creator that does any of those?
Yeah, there was one that I was checking out. I will find their name really quick.
You know what they need to do then, so it makes all sense, right? I've got this crazy idea. They should remake Final Fantasy VII, right?
No, God, that's a stupid idea.
Then they should release it
in VR.
Who's ever gonna play that?
I know, right? But if they remake it and release it, it might just explain the remake. Whoa, Square Enix, are you listening to this?
Like all the story problems I have with this game are just like it literally the last like hours. Like, and I think it's like the high level stuff that they will explain in like the upcoming stuff. So it's not like I'm not having a problem with this game. I adore the remake. I think it's fantastic. I had so much fun with this game. The Don Corneo, like the whole wall market thing was one of my favorite things I've ever done in a video game.
So I think what's interesting is this really opens up the game to be much more than a quote unquote remake, because it's not following the exact storyline anymore. Like there was the beginning of it that was following, and then it was, the hints with the arbiters and all that time was being meddled with. And then we're officially in time has officially been meddled state with Final Fantasy VII, which is extremely exciting because we don't know what's going to happen with chapter 2 or episode 2 or whatever. Like that's
nobody.
I can't wait.
Safe now, right?
I personally
nobody's safe. I mean, Barrett got killed.
Yeah.
And then Arbiters of Fate were like, nah, fam.
Arbiters of Fate were like, no. That's not that yet.
This ain't how it goes for Barrett.
No. It's really interesting. So I personally like this. I know there was some people of like, oh, it should have just been exactly the same as the original, but that's not clearly not what Square wanted to do. They wanted to take it further. So I really like it because at the end they made it very clear that about this being an unknown journey now. Whereas before, when we're playing all the way through the remake, there's people who know exactly what happens and they're all on the same page. And then there's the new people who don't know what's happening. Whereas now it's kind of brought both of those audiences to be on the same page. And I kind of like that.
I do too. It's a shot for shot remake in some places too, the new game and the old game.
Yeah.
Right.
It is,
Yeah, that's
I mean, as you say, kind of
No, go for it.
No, I was going to say it kind of gives sort of like people, as you say, it kind of gives both audiences, right? Because otherwise, it's like if it was 1-for-1 copy the whole way, then it means like although the diehard fans will enjoy it, every time they'll be like, oh, this next bit, I'm looking forward to seeing this because I know what's coming. Maybe and maybe that's also why they called it a remake and not a remaster, because obviously they are just like I mean that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Well, if you play through the whole game knowing that Aerith is going to die, that surprise is now gone for you. So now this sets it up so that another surprise could happen. You don't know what's going to happen.
What if they do?
And that's much more
endings?
interesting. It's like the Titanic.
Maybe,
if you watch the movie, you know the Titanic is going to sink. But if you watch, one of the exciting things about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is that you can have an alternate history and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
I personally really liked it. And just talking about the Sephiroth fight, my God, was that thing the most epic thing I've ever had experienced in my entire life? Playing the one-winged angel theme throughout all of it, and all of his moves, and how you have each character joining you, which felt very Marvel superheroes.
It was super
like
cool, yeah.
Avengers. They're just someone comes in, I'm like, oh my God, Aerith's here. Okay, I'm gonna keep fighting.
Super cool fight, but I swear the first couple of times that was some bullshit as well. Because I swear, like
the first couple of times.
When I went in first, I was like, oh, you know what, I got this. Right? And that typical thing where when you fight a boss for the first time, you nearly defeat the boss the very first time, and then your subsequent tries are just terrible.
Oh, I hate that.
And then and I just a couple of times I went in and I'd be like, all right, cool, I'm comboing him good, and then I'll switch to, because obviously as we kind of discussed last week, if you don't switch to the other characters, they're just trash at building ATB. So I was like, all right, I'll switch to Aerith. Suddenly he turns over, he's like, you're dead. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me go back to Cloud and just try and get it back up. He's like, you're dead. I was like, oh my gosh, let me just get under control. But then finally I had it. But yeah, that was an epic fight.
It was so cool. I loved every part of it. I was basically crying throughout the entire Sephiroth fight, and people were like, "Cry later, fight now." I'm like, "Listen, you got Aerith coming in here, you got Barrett coming in here, showing up to fight. I'm very emotional, and One Winged Angel is playing. What do you want from me?"
They're fighting the
combat
of fate.
continues to hold up through that entire game. What did you guys have for like a final hour count? I think I was somewhere over 30 hours. I think I was almost near 40.
I was 40 something.
I was like 43,
Yeah.
40.
I feel like I was
something
44.
like that. 46? I don't know.
Through the final fight of that game, I was still having fun with that combat. Like I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. The combat system was fantastic. I think they nailed it. Like I want that in the future for Final Fantasy games.
Feels so good.
Yeah. It's that it could see that easily becoming like the staple of Final Fantasy games. Is you have this kind of slash and dash, but then you also have this very tactical.
Yeah, that's the staple. I'll play them all from now on. Like, I'm just like, that's the one. The most satisfying thing, especially in the Sephiroth fight, it just amplifies it. Like counter stance for Cloud is such a badass move. Every time you're like, I'm about to be hit, it's like, it's just that's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Like I really liked how like on like small battles, like you could just blow through them. But on the big battles, you could slow it down to like basically a snail's pace and just micromanage everything.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It stayed fun.
I agree,
but it offered depth if you needed it or if you wanted it.
Have you
outstanding game? Like I can't believe how good it is. Like I figured this would be, another one of those games that some people like, some people don't. I would recommend this to anybody. I think it's just whether you like RPGs or not, whether you like Final Fantasy or not. I think this is just a spectacular game.
So the original was considered a landmark RPG, like changed the tide of how things were. And I feel like this is doing the exact same thing where it's like, this is what's possible with modern technology for a storytelling RPG experience. I mean, they nailed it so hard.
It was amazing. There were so many moments in that game where I was watching what was happening on the screen and I'm like, oh my God, this is really cool. And then you're like a part of that, which is crazy. There's so many times where I just feel like I'm in a spectacle and I can't focus because I'm just so excited about what's happening.
The other thing as well about it is like it's actually like such a clever remake as well, because to kind of go back to what we were sort of saying before, like if you think about it before, were it like a 1-for-1 remake, it's like, all right, cool, this is just a remake of the last one. Therefore, you want to play Final Fantasy 7, only play the new one now because Whereas now it's like it's almost going to encourage more people to go back and play the original because they will like, well, actually, your experience and your knowledge of the original does actually impact this. But it's a remake and it's true to it, but it's still at the same time protecting the original. The original hasn't lost any value in the slightest. So
the original keeps its place as you can still go back and play that game because it's not the same.
It's still available on modern platforms. So they just came out with it on Switch. It's available on PC. I'm pretty sure you can play it on a phone. Like it's it's everywhere.
Yeah, you can play it anywhere.
It's not like a far superior game like Skies of Arcadia that hasn't been remastered since 2002.
Also, just going back to the timeline thing as well, if there is this kind of notion of a potential timeline, I feel like one of the other reasons they maybe didn't like kill off Zack is that because obviously Zack had the element in Crisis Core, maybe this also means that in the next one we might play two timelines and maybe we get to play Zack.
So this is what I thought. In Final Fantasy VIII, this is exactly what it was. You were playing in two different timelines and you played two different people. So you played as Squall and you played as Laguna, I believe his name was. So you played as two different not fire teams, two different teams and two different timelines. So they could go down that road. Honestly, the whole Zack thing really does throw a giant spanner in the works. Because who is Cloud with Zack alive? I don't actually know.
Fascinating.
Who does he become?
Maybe it's Joe Strife.
Maybe he becomes Joe.
Joe Strife from New York.
That whole storyline you're talking about, I remember somebody trying to explain that to me in a bar in like the early 2000s and be like, this is why I hate this shit. But now I'm like in love with it. Maybe I wonder, it's been 25 years since, or 23. When did it come out? 97?
Yeah,
97.
Yeah.
People change. I wonder if I'd like it more 23 years later.
Yeah, you might have a different frame viewpoint. I've considered going back and playing it. I don't know. We'll see.
I think Watts got the right idea. I'm just gonna watch some YouTube videos.
Honestly, there's a channel called Final Fantasy Union, and he does phenomenal videos. Very easy to understand. They're as long as they need to be. I don't feel like they're drawn out or cut short. So yeah, I recommend that YouTube channel. It does a really good job. The Zach video that he did was amazing, because I was like, I kind of remember Crisis Core, but I want to make sure I fully remember everything. We even got out our PSP and started playing Crisis Core.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Was that like a straight up RPG? Because I remember at that time Square was making like they were trying to do like some action games, some like side story stuff.
It was an RPG, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still follows
on the PSP.
Yeah. It actually doesn't look bad. You can find a 4K playthrough of that on YouTube where someone has managed to do some sort of magic, and it's just a complete playthrough, no commentary, no webcam. It's just the full game.
I still got my PSP, but the battery exploded. So I gotta get a new battery for it.
Sounds
large.
bad.
Yeah. I threw it away.
It's a
Yeah.
large battery.
I mean, I recycled it. Sorry. I didn't throw it away. I didn't put it in the garbage can. Brought it to Best Buy and let them deal with it.
Yeah.
It's just a phenomenal story, and it could go anyway. So much of the original story, which is what they wanted to do, has just been completely blown up and like, hey, it's open for whatever the hell.
Do you guys think that after finishing Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was like, I don't think your gear is going to transfer. I don't think your progress is going to transfer. It's going to be different things have transpired in the next title. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm bummed by it because like it was fun collecting all the swords and all the weapons for everybody and all the materia and like doing the loadouts and getting all the abilities for each of the weapons. Like you put some extra work. Like I went into the sewers a few extra times just to get some extra combat so I could finish off finishing a weapon. What is it? Knowledge, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a bummer. It's going to be in 3 years probably. So who cares, I guess. But I played Final Fantasy VII Remake 4 by then.
I could totally see that you don't get to carry on a bunch of stuff. I think it would be cool if they let you take your summons at least, because like there's one summon where you might want to go through hard mode just to get that summon. I mean, you don't have to do it in hard mode, but it's going to be easier.
That's a good point. There wasn't a lot of summons, so you could potentially see them bringing that forward.
Yeah,
how many summons are there? I only got 2 playing through the game. I only got 2 from the VR thing.
There's Big Boy Chocobo.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I got
Leviathan, Shiva, Bahamut.
Yeah,
that's a hard mode one, right?
I didn't think I got Bahamut. You got to play hard mode.
That one you don't have to. You can stay in the original story, but you have to master all of Chad's.
Oh, that's what I missed. Yeah,
Chad's things. Yeah, so you have to go through and do all of his investigations, and then that opens up where you can fight him.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I don't see them bringing in the next chapter and you having all of your material leveled up and all these weapons.
No.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't see that happening. I think the summons would make sense because, like you said, like there's specific summons that are in the game, and you can't. It would be weird for them to be like, oh yeah, here's Leviathan again. Go get it.
Yeah.
So maybe you keep your summons, but I can see
on
that
top of that, I don't think it's going to start out where it's like you have the same party that was just walking past, breaking the time.
Honestly, I'm not even thinking of this as 2 games that are of the same game. It's not like chapter 1 and chapter 2 for me. It's just like one game and then another game.
Like a sequel to the first one?
They're like standalone games on their own. Of course they're going to be related, but I would kind of think of it as something like, like The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2, right?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking of it as, I don't know, some game that lets you carry stuff.
It is interesting, though, to think about, like, are they going to do a multiple ending type of thing? Like, what if think like Nier Automata? And not to that degree of all these different possible variations, but maybe there's going to be a Cloud ending and a Zack ending and like who knows?
That'd be cool.
An Aerith ending.
Maybe. Especially if they're doing if they are doing a multiple timeline thing. I could totally see them. They're going to give me some awful choices, aren't they?
Probably.
They're going to make me choose things I don't want to choose.
They were like, one of these people are going to die.
I choose Tifa.
You're going to have to choose. No.
To die?
No.
Oh.
God damn it. No. Oh, a couple more spoiler things. We saw Biggs is still alive.
Oh, right.
Biggs was still alive.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
scene that was so you physically see Biggs, and then you see Jesse's gloves on the table, and then there's also 3 pencils on the table. So I think they're like for sure saying Biggs is still alive, and then the other things are kind of saying, hey, the others might be.
Through
But
the power of
we
Mako.
can't tell for sure. Can't tell for sure.
Dude.
For the
And then
power
what
of
happened to the other guy who got caught in the tower? Like, unclear what happened to
Wedge.
him, right?
Wedge.
Yeah.
Didn't
I
The
hope
only
Wedge is
reason I
alive, to
can
be
remember
honest.
their names is because they're named after squad mates of Luke Skywalker, Wedge
Yeah.
and Biggs.
Yeah, I mean, if there's multiple timelines, I'm sure all of them are alive somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
That's a good point.
But I mean, Wedge, like something happened to Wedge, like that they clearly don't want you to know exactly what happened to.
Wedge got
Yeah.
grabbed.
He got grabbed by the ghoulies.
He got grabbed by the ghoulies. Maybe he shows up at Sephiroth's side and he's like, so.
Dark Wedge.
This dude with the long
Dark
sword is way
Wedge.
cooler than the guy with the thick sword.
Dark Wedge with his army of cats. Imagine.
Well, maybe that's what they do in part 2. Like there's like the dark world and the light world that you switch back and forth, like some Zelda stuff.
Maybe I mean, you've never seen them both in the same place at the same time. Just saying.
Good point.
And I mean, Wedge is Sephiroth backwards.
It's also true about you and Tefty. So
This is
True.
true. Also-
both at the Destiny 2 event.
You know, true. You know the other thing as well. You know one of my favorite things in the game, Melee Barrett.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was fun.
Yes.
Forget the gun.
Yes.
When he runs up, he's like, bam.
Oh my
Like,
God. So good.
When
except for when you've. Go on.
when I got the big bowling ball thing, that was the first
Yeah.
melee weapon I got for him, and it was just like, oh,
It's
Except,
actually really good.
but when you forget you have it on, and then you've got to fight a flying enemy, and he is actually useless.
Yeah.
He's not like Cloud. He literally can't go to the sky. He's like,
No.
"Arr."
Yeah. Yeah, he does not go in the sky. Thank goodness. you
Barrett
can
was
still
one of
use
my
his
favorite
weapon.
characters to play as in the game. Like when I was in a
Yeah, he's
tough
really
battle,
good.
I often like would switch to him and kind of manage the battle as Barrett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
gave
find
my
it
Barrett
useful.
10,000 health, so I just sat on him the whole time and put on Lifesaver so that he just took all the damage, and then we won the video games.
It's
Yeah,
a nice build.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good strategy.
You can't kill
He's my
10k health
combat
Barrett.
Yeah, he was my
Can I ask-
combat medic. He would just like damage and then heal.
I need to ask another question. This was like a what the fuck was that moment that I'm sure is in there for the fans of the original game. Was the cat with the crown
Kate Sith is the cat's name.
Vincent?
Kate Sith. Vincent is a
Okay.
character in Final Fantasy though.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
What was
Wait,
his deal?
When was there a cat with a crown? Did I miss this?
When
The
the
cutscene.
when the plate falls,
Yeah.
the cutscene of the plate falling, they flash to him for just a moment, and he's like devastated. But then at the end, in the ending credits, when they're kind of like replaying like some of the moments from the game, he's in there again. So obviously they want
I
to draw your attention
completely
to
missed
he's in
that.
there.
so
Right.
the story with Kate Sith is that, do you remember Reeve from Shinra? He's the guy who wanted to rebuild the slums, and he's having a really bad time
Oh, yeah.
with them being like,
He's-
no, forget
He's
it.
the corporate good guy.
Yeah, he's the corporate good guy. Kate Sith is essentially a robot that Reeve controls.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
See, there's a whole cast of characters that you meet after you get out of Midgar in the original, and like this Vincent, Kate Sith, like even Red 13.
I can't wait for the next one to come along. So obviously they're going to redo this on the PlayStation 5, right? There will be a re-release of this on the PlayStation 5, and then the next
Assuming,
version
right?
you would think is going to be a PlayStation 5 game. Because
Hmm.
what are you thinking? 2 to 3 years?
minimum.
3
Yeah,
to 4 years?
I was talking
Probably.
to Tomo about it, and I was like, so
10
they said
years.
that they started actually developing it. We're saying November, right? That's when they started, November 2019. And I was like, so they have their systems and stuff. And he was like, with systems done, you're probably 2 years if we're lucky.
Yeah.
And like there's different systems because now they're going out into like the greater world.
They're doing a bunch of stuff. Who knows?
Yeah. So
but
there
like
could be new systems needed.
I mean, there's obviously going to be new systems for boss fights and various specific character traits and all that. Like that's clearly going to have to get coded. And if they do an open world ish type of thing, that has to get worked out as well. But the majority of those, like the difficult engine things, seem to be put in place. It's just how long is it going to take for them to make all the creative assets?
Exactly.
Yeah,
like that's the big question mark.
That could take a while. Yeah, and I do think it's important to note is that the reason it took so long for this to come out is because they completely scrapped it at one point. So like they switched developers.
Mm-hmm.
True.
So it's not like this is taking that entire time. It's that they basically started from scratch halfway through.
Right.
Yeah, I cannot wait. I could see this being a game series that we play for a while, honestly, because there's so much that they can do with it. If they're going to be bringing in like Crisis Core story, like say if they're thinking we want to bring the lore of the original Final Fantasy and the Crisis Core and Advent Children and all of that and put it into this one series as like a streamlined Final Fantasy VII world experience, we could see a lot from this game because there's a lot of different lore and stories and characters that they could totally bring into this game.
Yeah.
They'll lose my interest, I think, if they string it out too much. Like if I'm still waiting to find out what the resolution of this story is in 15 years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
That'd be rough.
I think it's
like if we got like a tight 3-game set in like a span of 9 years, that'd probably be about the stretch of it for me before I start like Star Wars style, like a movie every 3 years.
It's tough to think about that.
I don't know what they're gonna do.
I don't know. I don't either.
There's a lot. There's Sephiroth still chilling in the ice. Need to find out what's going on with that guy.
What's hilarious too is there's been a ton of people who finished this and then immediately started playing other Final Fantasy games on Switch.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
which is awesome.
We've started playing Final Fantasy 14.
14. That's the MMO.
Yes. Because both me and Tomo were
deep.
like, "Ooh, I got a big Final Fantasy hole left in my heart. What do I do?" And then Zealous was there to be like, "Well, Final Fantasy 14 is a game that you could play, and I'd be very excited if you did." So we were like, "Okay, we'll try it out." And now I think both of us are sort of we're in there. It's actually been really cool because I started talking about it on Twitter, found out that there's an entire underworld belly of Final Fantasy 14 players. Literally everyone plays or did play. And so we've had a bunch of new people in my community get in because you can play it for free for a while. You don't have to invest anything in it just to see if you might like it. And then we have a bunch of OG players who are in there helping everyone. So it's been really cool that we have this big group of people now that are playing, which has been really, really, really cool.
Every time they release new content for that game, people are beside themselves with how good it is. But with the caveat of, but it's like 40 to 60 hours of shit to get through. Very funnily, very, very funnily. That probably doesn't make sense, but they're doing an update that they want it to come out in June, but it could be delayed because of the whole world ending. But they're basically now making it to where they're streamlining the beginning part of the game because Square totally knows that people drop off the beginning part of Final Fantasy 14. Because at the very beginning, it's tedious, and then it gets really, really good, and then towards the end of the first part of content, it gets tedious, and that's when people tend to drop off. But all I hear all the time, no one defends that. They're like, "Yeah, it's gonna be bad. You're gonna have to push through that part." But then from there onwards, with all of the other DLCs, are absolutely amazing. So I'm really happy to hear that they're streamlining it. Because it's a phenomenal game that a lot of people are missing out on because of that like tedious first part. Well, this is the quality of content that Square is capable of putting out with Final Fantasy VII Remake. It definitely makes me interested in seeing what they can do with an MMO. I don't know if it's going to be the same kind of thing, but Lord.
They've been doing great stuff. I hear constantly that Shadowbringers is one of the best Final Fantasy stories that you can experience.
How's the combat?
Final Fantasy 16.
The combat is kind of what you would expect from a MMO. It's You have a global cooldown. So like say if you have a sword slash and then another sword slash, there's a global cooldown that you have to wait for. So you'll see everything goes on cooldown and then you press it at that right time. But then you have other abilities that you can just press whenever their individual cooldowns come up. So it's a lot of just managing like combos and then managing global cooldowns and non-global cooldowns. But it gets really addicting because combos feel really cool. And a lot of the abilities feel really cool. And a lot of the classes are really fun. I think there's a class in there for everyone that they would pick up and be like, okay, this is kind of cool. But it definitely is an MMO. So if MMO is like not your jam, then you might not.
I don't know
it.
if I got room in my life for another like continuous game like Destiny is for me.
Yeah,
I looked at 15 when it came out, and I was like, you know how sometimes you can just see something and say, no, that's not for me. I
tried with 14, but like it just didn't like. I got warrior to level 60 and stuff, but I had to go through like all the Realm Reborn stuff. But I just because I love my MMOs. I've played like tons of them. I played through like Guild Wars and World of Warcraft and loads of them, right? But there's something about Final Fantasy 14 that just didn't sit right with me. Like there's parts of it that always look really cool. Like there's fun aspects to it. But one of the things that really irked me, and I know obviously maybe they'll improve that later on, but when you start the early leveling experience for an MMO, a massively multiplayer online game, every time you have your personal quest, it's like, please leave the party and do this quest solo. Now rejoin your party, go and do some fetch quests. Please leave the party again. And this is a hefty chunk. Like so many quests are just like, you have to do this on your own. I know like from a Final Fantasy standpoint, it's your story, but it's like, this is an MMO. I should be able to do this with my friends. This sucks.
So that's what I think Final Fantasy does differently to other MMOs, which you really either kind of love it or hate it. It's a Final Fantasy game as well as being an MMO. So you can have like that very in-depth story. It is an MMO story, so it's not at the level of like a single player dedicated story, but you do very much so have that story. So when you talk to people about getting into Final Fantasy 14, it's like compared to something like WoW is like grind so you can get to the max levels, you can do all the cool stuff. Whereas with Final Fantasy, a lot of the time you will hear, take your time, enjoy the story, really embrace the world. And that's kind of the difference between the two. But I think group content feels really fun because of course you have your different classes that you can play in your different roles like tank, healer, and DPS and stuff. So it feels really fun to play with other people. But yeah, there's a lot of your story that you go through. But I personally like that because I love just kind of grinding stuff on my own, and then every now and then I'll group up with people and do something. So it kind of works perfectly for me.
I'm definitely interested in checking it out, but I'm trying to decide if I want to wait until they revamp the beginning because that might happen in June.
Good move,
right? I'm like,
yeah, you don't want to play that beginning. You don't want to play that. Will put anyone. I'm talking. It's not even like, oh yeah, sit through. It's not like starting something like Monster Hunter where it's like sit through 10 hours of slowness to get something. It's just like sit through 100 hours of like trash bags, and then you'll get to some stuff. So like
I'll say that I'm currently level 37. I don't know how many hours that is, but it's like it's a chunky amount. And I've been having a really good time with all of it. The beginning was rough because I was like, there's a lot to read. Holy mother of God.
Yeah.
There's a whole because you're learning everything and you're learning how the map works and you're learning how quests work.
It's
so
all
in the
text.
beginning, there's a lot of like fetch quests because you're learning how the different parts of the game work. The part that I'm in now has really opened up and I'm exploring. I got my chocobo music plays every time you ride it, which is the best thing ever.
Nice.
So the whole time, if you're in Discord with me, I'm basically just going so prepare for that. But yeah, the part that I'm in now is really, really fun. And they have servers now where if you join that server, you get double XP for playing on that server if you're a new character. So XP goes up real fast, and then you can start getting some of the different classes.
That's what the 100 hours is just ranking up your character.
Well, there's a lot of story probably in those 100 hours. But yeah, I know just getting through a Realm Reborn is the stuff that you have to get through. But people will say it's all doom and gloom and it's terrible the whole way through Realm Reborn. But there are parts that are really enjoyable, especially if you do pay attention to the story. You start getting invested in it.
Maybe that's my downfall. I skipped every single cutscene. They just weren't interested in me. I was just like, this guy just needs to shut up. This guy's voice just annoys me.
I totally understand why you would want to do that. Because you're like, I want to get to the next quest. I want to get my new abilities. I want to go fight the new thing. But for Final Fantasy, I would say that it really does pay off to pay attention to the story, because this is like a story MMO, right? Instead of just here's like something we kind of threw on there to get you through the game and make an excuse for you to go fight bad guys. It's a story.
I might check this out when it comes out, when the updated.
Yeah, like I'm very interested, but the idea of spending 100 hours to get to the meat that's a bit rough right now. Even if that's cut in half, 50 hours to get to the meat, it's still a lot. You know, that's a lot.
Yeah, they're cutting a lot out and just making it more streamlined in general. I personally like fetch quests, so I probably will be okay because I just chill. You know, I throw.
They're my second favorite.
I throw
after
on a
escort missions.
No, I don't like the escort missions. There's actually one in Final Fantasy which you can completely avoid, but there's one kind of side questy thing that you can do where you have to use an emote of beckon. So you beckon a merchant towards you, and you have to walk him all the way to his location. Don't do those. But I personally like putting. I like just put a podcast on or a show, do some fetch quests. You know, chill in the world. The world is beautiful, and it only gets more beautiful the further you get in.
Totally.
So,
yeah, the game looks really nice,
and it's definitely not hundreds of hours of fetch quests. They kick
I
in
often
every
play
now and
video
then.
games with like a TV show or a podcast going. With the remake, Final Fantasy 7 remake, I didn't ever have it going.
Ooh.
Like I was always 100% focused on that.
This is
screen.
a good review for Briar. This is the Briar Rabbit ultimate review right there.
Oh man, well, hopefully that streamlined version comes out sooner than later. Maybe we can all dip our toes into Final Fantasy 14 aggressively.
And I'd always be down to come back and help with dungeons and stuff, because dungeons are fun no matter what, and boss fights are fun no matter what. And the cool thing is that dungeons always give you a ton of XP. So even if you're, say, level 60 or whatever, going back and helping someone with a dungeon isn't just like I'm wasting
my time. Is that PS4 and PC?
PS4 and PC, and this
crossplay?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff.
That's cool.
We are an hour and a half into the episode. I think we got a call here.
It was a fun episode, though.
It was, yeah. There was also a Borderlands update that happened. I got to play that, but I think we're going to have to save it for next week to talk possible Borderlands stuff.
Tefty. Emma brings up a good point of if you wait too long, Phantasy Star comes out.
Oh, Phantasy Star is next month.
Is that coming out next month?
Yeah, next month in May.
Guys, straight into.
Looks like you should just jump into Final Fantasy. We got a bunch of new people to help you. You can join our
But I need to play Neo too. And that's like a 40-hour game.
Streets of Rage 4.
It's Streets of Rage 4.
Play both at the same time. Do your fetch quest, put on auto run while you're playing some Neo. Perfect.
See,
I don't know. I want to play a game that has auto run.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like I worry about stuff like that. I'm like,
You worry about auto run?
Yeah, because the fact that you need auto run in there.
It's just a nice little thing to have. I mean, you can't just auto run from one side to the other. You have to move. There's going to be like stuff in the way. And there's going to be monsters along the way, and there's going to be quests along the way for you to pick up.
I want more games to have more than just auto run. The World of Warcraft /follow, where you target your friend, then you just
yeah.
You're just like, yep, you can do the run.
I'm just gonna sit here, eat my dinner. Thank you.
I was rejoicing when they unlocked the Chocobo, like what do you call it?
The fast travel, yeah.
Quick travel in Final Fantasy 7, and that's a small map. I was like, I don't want to be.
Apparently, Final Fantasy 14 has the follow function. So there you go, Tefty. You can just load on up. You just follow. I'll take you to your quest.
It's not the function exists. It's that it. Well, I guess it's
necessary.
That it's necessary, right?
I think generally in MMOs they tend to put that stuff in there because people do very long sessions, and it's real helpful when you're trying to snack on a Snickers or something.
Okay.
Or you're trying to just like stretch a little bit, while you're running. Okay, good to go.
Stuff kind of worries me. Destiny already takes up a lot of my time. Well, I mean, it did. Not anymore at the moment.
You got a solid new content for Destiny will come out in June-ish. So you got a window.
But again, Phantasy Star Online next month. There's Neo 2. There's I don't know. We'll see. I think that's the that's the show, right?
Yep.
SideQuest complete.
Boom. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Appreciate all the support. If you want to find more of me, you can talk to me at Teft on Twitter and catch my streams, twitch.tv/Teft.
And I am Miss 5000 Watts. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube at Miss 5000 Watts.
And you can find me over on Twitter at Eric's and YouTube at Eric's Gaming. Yeah.
And you can find me, I'm Bright Rabbit. You can find me searching for a Dreamcast to play Skies of Arcadia for.
Nice.
Solid.
All right, that's the show. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate all the support. Thanks for subbing on Twitch and Patreon and watching on YouTube and supporting our shows on Spotify and all that.
And if you want to get some sick old DCP merch, there's currently a flash sale going on.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So you can get the awesome poster by the amazing Ash. Some really amazing art on there.
That poster is awesome.
It's like $11.
Yeah.
So
I need to get one.
Yeah, you do. I'm sure Pope can sell you one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pope's got to unload all that stock because he's going to Bangkok.
That rhymes.
Bangkok.
Right there.
Eric's, be careful. Pope might try and send you 50 posters. Just keep an eye on it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
enough boxes and enough storage. And the cardboard's not being collected right now because the stuff. I can't do this.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Bye, everyone.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.